Of all the kings and rulers Alexander the Great fought, Porus holds a special place. If we compare Porus with another famous adversary of Alexander, Darius III, the last Achaemenid emperor, we could say that there is no comparison. On the one hand, we have a person who ruled the largest empire of his time that stretched from Asia Minor to the Indus River. On the other hand, we have Porus, who ruled a far smaller territory that stretched from the eastern bank of Jhelum to the western bank of Chenab. In terms of resources too, there is no comparison. Porus held a small fraction of resources which Darius III had. And one could extend this argument to say that it would be wrong to compare Porus with Darius III. So, if there is no comparison between these two individuals, this raises some obvious and important questions. Firstly, why Porus, an Indian king who ruled a small territory, is described in Western sources as a figure of heroic grandeur and a worthy opponent of Alexander the Great? Or in other words, what makes Porus so special? Why is he included in the list of great adversaries which Alexander the Great fought in his 32-year life? Now, in order to answer these questions, we have to first understand the situation which Porus found himself in when he was about to face Alexander in the Battle of Hydaspes or the Battle of Jhelum. So, the year is 326 BC. At Porus's western border stood a foreign ruler who had defeated the largest empire of his time and was now ready to conquer Porus's territory. He has the manpower and the resources of an empire at his disposal. Porus, on the other hand, stands virtually alone. His northern neighbor, who had earlier allied with him, is nowhere to be seen, and it is not known whether he would support Porus against Alexander. To the east of Porus's kingdom lay the kingdom of Porus's cousin, who had already submitted to Alexander. To the west of Porus's territory, where Alexander now stood, was the territory of Porus's major rival Ambi. So Porus now stands alone, facing an enemy who had won great battles and whose army was the most professional army the ancient world has ever seen. Porus was also aware of the fact that there is no possibility of any external help. Porus could submit like Ambi had done, but he did not choose to. He stood firm against this well-trained army that had recently destroyed the Achaemenid Empire, the greatest empire of the ancient world. It would be wrong for us to assume that Porus was not aware of Alexander's past achievement. The news that a Greek army had destroyed the Achaemenid Empire must have certainly reached Porus. And despite having all of this information and knowing against what odds he was standing, Porus still chose to fight Alexander. He did not submit. Now, when we come to the battle itself, we find that the size of Porus's army is mentioned in different Western sources, and they vary in detail. According to historian A.B. Bosworth, these numbers are clearly exaggerated. And when it comes to cavalry, it was Alexander who had superior numbers. Porus's cavalry was small and inexperienced compared to the Macedonian cavalry. If we compare the size of infantry on both sides, it is clear that Porus did not have 30,000 infantry as Arrian informs us. We can say this because in Western sources it is mentioned that during the battle the Macedonian cavalry and infantry were able to cordon the entire army of Porus. If Porus had 30,000 infantry, it would have been impossible for the Greek army to cordon this large number. So Porus did not have 30,000 infantry. Although it is true that Alexander's infantry was smaller than Porus's infantry, but it was the cream of Alexander's army. These men who were now about to fight Porus's army had been with Alexander from the very beginning. They had fought and defeated great armies previously, and when the Battle of Jhelum began, it was this elite army of Alexander with greater training and experience that decided the fate of the battle. The advantage that Alexander had in cavalry ensured that the Macedonian will come out as victors. But this was not an easy victory. Porus's men fought valiantly and gave Macedonian soldiers a tough fight. The casualties that the Macedonian soldiers suffered were certainly not normal. It was this experience that ultimately became one of the reasons why Alexander's soldiers refused to go beyond the Beas River. Plutarch tells us that the battle with Porus depressed the spirits of the Macedonians and made them very unwilling to advance farther into India. For as it was with the utmost difficulty they had beaten him when the army he led amounted only to 20,000 infantry and 2,000 cavalry. Along with these details, it must be mentioned that Porus personally fought bravely and he fought till the end. He did not flee from the battle scene as Darius III had done. Porus also had to endure some personal losses. Arrian informs us that in this battle, two of Porus's sons also died. Now, when we read about how heroically Porus fought this battle, it should be remembered that all of these details are not mentioned or are not coming from Indian sources. Whatever we know about Alexander's invasion of India and this Battle of Jhelum comes solely from Western sources. As of yet, we have not found any Indian source that talks about Alexander's invasion of India and how Porus fought Alexander. So, the way Porus is depicted in Western sources tells us that this battle against Porus left a deep impression in Greek and later Western sources. We also know that Porus's demeanor after the battle greatly impressed Alexander, and that is why he did not appoint any Greek governor in Porus's territory. Porus till the end remained a sovereign. It was this demeanor of Porus and his fighting spirit that made him a great opponent of Alexander. This is also the reason why Porus, a fairly insignificant ancient Indian ruler who is not mentioned in any Indian source and whose territory was fairly small with limited resources, is described in such vivid details in Western sources. And this is what makes Porus great. If you like this video, do watch these two videos where I have talked about lesser known facts of Porus and Ambhi. If you like this channel, do subscribe. Thank you for watching.